Lean in and make out with this mic with me. Just, hey, welcome back, 20th Level Commoners. That's going to be our opening.
Awesome.
Yeah. By the way, it's finals week at my college. So that's why this is a little late. Just so you know. But, hey. We go on.
That and Fallout 4.
Yeah, Fallout 4. That had something to do with it as well. Hey, this week we're going to bring you yet another system from our game closet. This is the other system that we have gone through a very long-form campaign with. The only other system that we have done a long-form campaign with has been World of Darkness. And we are just now getting into an FFRPG campaign that I am DMing. So we'll let you know how that goes. But, yeah, this is Double Cross, and it is... hey, man, it's an anime RPG.
It's anime X-Men.
Yeah.
So average shonen.
Yeah, and it's not just like any anime. It's very focused. Very much, think very much like a Persona or, like Cody said, shonen battle like Dragon Ball Z.
Probably the closest that I've seen is Tokyo Ghoul quite a bit.
Yeah, Tokyo Ghoul. So a lot of those kind of darker feeling anime. And of course stuff like Persona, to where everyone has a lot of power, but there's a price to that power. It's a very big theme to this game. So what the lore to this game is you are all basically infected with a parasite, and this parasite gives you strange and wonderful powers. But the more you use this power, the more the parasite takes over. And so that is the limit on your power, is the more you use the power, the more likely you are to essentially go hollow.
Yeah.
You become just this raging person driven by nothing but desires. And that's a mechanic we can talk about later. But the game uses 10-sided dice, much like World of Darkness, to where they use 10-sided dice to the exclusion of everything else. That being said, whereas World of Darkness, it uses 10-sided dice and then you just count how many of a certain number you get. This game, you actually have to add up all of your numbers. And so you're rolling a World of Darkness number of dice, which can be anywhere from 12 to 20, but you're having to count them all and add them all together. So that's the biggest difference between this game and World of Darkness mechanically.
It's World of Darkness dice, but D&D math.
Not the greatest, as you can imagine, but
I think it actually works though once you figure it out.
Yeah, once it gets going, it flows pretty well. So Cody, this game kind of has a lot of this game really isn't like Pathfinder, is it?
No, it's very different than Pathfinder.
Yeah.
I think one of the major little schisms between RPGs in general is if it's on a D&D side or if it's on a World of Darkness side. This is definitely on a World of Darkness side. This is also very different from World of Darkness. This is its own beast.
One thing I noticed is that a lot of your role-play character creation things, they actually have an impact on gameplay.
That is probably one of the most World of Darkness things about it, but in this one, I think it's even stronger than World of Darkness.
Yeah, so like I said, everyone who has powers in this game has it through this parasite that is trying to take them over. And so you have something called an encroachment rate, and that rate goes up the more you use your powers, which are these kind of, a lot like D&D 4th edition. They're these little power cards you can use. And you can chain them all together to make some really cool combos. But like I said, the more you use the powers, the more this encroachment rate goes up. And once your encroachment rate passes a certain point, there's a chance your character will kind of become this beast, this ghoul that is driven by a base desire determined at character creation. And what that means in gameplay is your character is not yours anymore. It is under the control of the DM.
Yeah.
So this is a game where the DM is kind of secretly rubbing his hands together and trying to get you guys to push the line. Which,
and it's made and it succeeds in getting these really dramatic moments. Like a lot of things you'll see in anime is like, I'm going to use all my power, but I'm going to die. And he's risking his life by like going in full on overdrive and, blasting him with the shonen power of friendship. But
Exactly.
it's going to turn him to like this hollow dead thing. Actually, it's really close to the Bloodborne beast.
It is. But the way you reduce that is you have something akin to the morality system in World of Darkness, but the morality is linked to the people you know.
Yeah.
So the flavor is the way you resist the pull of this virus is by remembering the people closest to you. And these people are representatives as Lois, and for every Lois you have, it represents a dice you roll at the end of every session to reduce the encroachment rate. And so how this works is whenever your encroachment rate goes over 100, there is no limit on how high your encroachment rate can go. But once it's over 100 is when you're in the area you need to start worrying. So the game, everyone at the end of a session who has over 100 encroachment rate has to roll a number of d10s equal to their lowest, and you start the game out with 3. That's 3d10. And once you roll those, you will reduce your encroachment rate by that much, and if that puts you under 100, you're fine. If it doesn't, one of two things happens. One is you can burn all of your experience points to get another roll at the same number of Loises, or you can give your character to the GM.
Yeah. I think this is my favorite part of this game. This is like the smartest thing. It's the one thing that really kicks the ass off of World of Darkness' system. Where World of Darkness, their humanity system, it's this really binary, almost chutes and ladders simplicity. Like, you will lose humanity if you shoplift. Imagine if I pulled that shit on you guys in the campaign, like in the middle of like all of your terrorism and your gunfights. Like, oh no, you snagged like an extra sucker from the bank teller you were robbing. It's gonna cost
That's what
you.
brings our morality down.
Yeah.
This game, and so really what you have is kind of a built-in grounding and backstory for the character that has mechanical repercussions.
And it worked. I mean, all of us had really cool backstories, and like the people we knew played a big part in the game.
And one thing about this is that the game doesn't leave people who are uncomfortable with role playing hanging.
Yeah.
Because there is a chart you can roll that will like randomly determine who these Loises are, like what emotion is attached to them, like what does this person make you feel, who they are in relation to you, why they are this person that will help you resist this virus just by thinking about them.
And these random rolls are a blast.
Yeah, like I think everyone except... No, I think everyone did. Everyone rolled random on the table.
Like, I changed mine up a little bit afterwards, but I still rolled random.
Yeah, like everyone rolled random on the table and everyone like had a blast with it.
Yeah.
I think Trevor more so than anyone else.
Yeah.
My gosh, he was ecstatic when he just rolling these tables like, yeah, I got a sister and like we feel these things towards each other and I got this person. Yeah, this is awesome. It's great. But so this is a game focused on role playing.
Yes.
It is the role play before game. It is the RP of the RPG.
And that's a good thing, because the actual
The mechanics are woo okay. But going through character creation, what you do is, like we mentioned first off, you have to pick your character's backstory first.
Yeah.
And you do this in a little chart marked life history. And this one has an origin, which is like the one word that describes how you were brought up in life. Your experience, which is like a traumatic or life-changing experience that happened at some point. An encounter with another character, which sets up a character for you to chase. Kind of a foil built in. your awakening, which is how you got your powers, and your impulse, which is the emotion that takes over you when the virus takes over. And those last two, awakening and impulse, have important gameplay repercussions because they determine what's called your base encroachment rate. So not everyone's encroachment rate starts at 0. Everyone has what's called a base encroachment rate, and it is the combination of their awakening and their impulse, the number that they get when you pick something from that table. So like take the character I made, for instance. He has an awakening unknown. He doesn't know how he got these powers. That has an encroachment of 15. His impulse is battle lust. So he has a desire to get into a fight whenever the virus takes over. That has an impulse of 16. And so his base encroachment rate is 31. It can never go under 31. And I think, what is yours?
My origin is incarcerated child. I took a look at that and I started like moving things more towards like Bane from Batman, and so I was gonna do that, but I mean it didn't turn out the way. But we'll get to that later. But my experience is a spiraling life. Everything is just going further and far further into the crapper.
Well, that was apt.
Yeah, yeah. My encounter was with a rival, which is kind of the Miles Edgeworth to my
Yeah, Cody was a defense attorney.
Yeah.
And that actually had gameplay repercussions as well.
Yes, it did. And my awakening was self-improvement, which I took to mean just pure greed. Like, he is improving himself at the expense of everyone else. And his impulses, also battle lust.
And so what's your base rate?
My base rate is 30.
30. So it's 1 point lower than mine.
Yeah.
But most people are going to start out with about 30. Now, some of the syndromes are kind of the different classes that give you the powers based on like what strain of the virus you got. And so some of these syndromes have powers that just increase the base rate. You can use them whenever. They don't have a cost, but they increase your base rate. So instead of having like a 31, now you have a 36 because you have this power with you. And so but mostly it's going to come from awakening and impulse as your base rate. After that, you pick your Loises, which we went through. You can roll on the table, you can pick, or you can make it up. And you start out with 3, and these are characters that are linked to you by some deep relationship, either through like a deep friend, or they're a relative, or
an enemy.
Yeah, in Cody's case, a great rival. I think Kais had an enemy.
No, he had that deadbeat loser roommate.
He had that, but I think one of his other ones was like an enemy that he was trying to kill. So they can be negative as well, but it's just like it's something that keeps you from going over the edge.
I think Stevens was like not exactly an enemy, but like someone he really hated.
Yes,
he blamed him for the death of his friend.
So Steven had maybe the most interesting arc because he had a character who, so there were these 3 people. One of them was his character, and the other 2 were Loises of his. One of those Loises is in a coma. The other one ran from a fight. And because he ran, the second Lois is in a coma. And so his character blamed that character.
Also, Steven's character got captured and tortured, which is why I think his impulse was like torture or sadism.
Yeah. And that was random roll too. So he just thought that up. But what ended up happening was later on, they kind of had this point where Steven was like knocked down, dead to rights, and I had this giant wolf coming to like bite his head off. And then I had like the other guy, the guy that Steven blamed, like swoop in and save him at the last second. And so you had this like reconciliation between those two, which is great because Steven was the one person who lost his character to having too high of an encroachment.
Yeah, we had to put him down eventually.
Yeah.
But even greater than that, Steven's next character
was the guy in the coma. Yeah. And he was just like, "Oh, can I be the guy in the coma? That'd be really cool." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." He wakes up the second you go. And so that was really, but yeah, like, and so that just kind of, like, we didn't plan to have it go that way. It just
No.
kind of, it just led to that, strong following all these strings.
The brilliant thing about this game is that it sets up the lore and the role playing just enough to where it just lets you play with it.
Yeah.
It like builds a playground and lets you do what you will.
Yeah, like if you have a bunch of characters and a DM who likes to have a lot of loose ends to pull with, like this game is fantastic.
Yeah.
So moving on from your Loises, you have to pick your work, and your work is exactly what it sounds like. So your character, another difference from Pathfinder is your character really can't be a wandering adventurer. He has a life and a goal and relationships.
Yeah.
And because the work you pick determines in a small part your stats, but also your skills. So whatever work you pick from the chart gives you a certain number of skills and a +1 in one stat. And so, like Cody said, he was a public defender, I think was one you picked.
I put down district attorney, but it kind of got mixed up, and I went for it. I like for some reason by the end I was working for this firm that was both prosecution and defense at the same time.
I don't know how.
Like literally
law.
at the same time. Like
I don't know how
my
law
other
works,
guy
guys.
was defense and I was prosecutor in the same trial.
They had offices right across from each other.
It was like the most obnoxious conflict of interest ever, but it was great.
Yeah. That came from me not knowing how the judicial system works.
Yeah.
But so Cody was kind of like a public defender, and so he got a lot of skills related to like negotiation, right?
Yes.
A lot of face skills.
I was a prosecutor, and by the end of it, I was kind of trying to go like Grand Inquisitor.
God dang. But yeah, and so those that sets up a base for your character.
Mm-hmm.
After that, you have to pick what your syndrome is. This is the strain of the virus you got. This is what determines what powers you can take. And there are quite a few. Let me count them out real quick.
Yeah.
If I can find them. Finding them.
What's really impressive is that there's a good amount of variety in them, too.
There are.
And the flavor text is also pretty impressive.
Yeah. They also... the base book gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 to pick from. There is another one called Infinity Code that gives you another one. So there are 13 in total. But the ones you have in the base book, you have Angel Halo, Baylor, Black Dog, Bram Stoker, Chimera, Exile, Hanuman, Morpheus, Neumann, Orcus, Salamander, and Solaris. And these are all the different strains of the virus you can have, and they have different powers. So like Cody, for instance, was a Bram Stoker and a Chimera?
Yes.
Yeah. And so he had a lot of... Chimera is a strain focused on like body manipulation. These are like the big fighters of the group.
Yeah.
And so Cody, I think from that could like make like Baraka blades.
Yeah, I made Baraka blades, and I had wings, and I did something a little fightier too.
Mm-hmm. But then also he had the Bram Stoker stuff, which is basically like Dead Man Wonderland shit. You're doing stuff with your own blood.
Yeah, that's where I get my fighty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would get the Thirst Lord that would like I would just like drain their blood and ignore armor and shit.
Yeah. So it was really kind of a cool... It didn't really have anything to do with Cody's character, but it was just really frickin' metal.
Sort of did. Like, I had this idea of just like satanic Harvey Birdman. I wasn't sure where I got that, but like Harvey Birdman if he looked like Tetsu at the end of Akira.
Yeah. Or Kane, maybe. From
Yeah, Kane is probably a little closer.
Yeah.
But like a lot fleshier and bloodier.
Yeah. So as you notice, Cody has 2 syndromes.
Yes.
You can pick 1 syndrome, 2 syndromes, or 2 syndromes and a sub-syndrome.
But for each syndrome, they become more watered down.
Yeah, so the pure breed is 1 syndrome. And they can pick any power from this 1 syndrome. Mm-hmm. There are powers specifically marked pure, and you have to be a pure breed to get these powers. I think, if I remember right, Kais was the only pure breed.
Yeah, and
He was full Angel Halo.
Also, your stats are a lot more min-max because you just get your stats doubled.
Yeah, so basically what happens is you have 4 stats in the game: body, sense, mind, social.
Mm-hmm.
They all kind of do what you would think. And there's a chart here where you cross-reference the syndrome with the numbers you get.
Mm-hmm.
If you pick a pure breed, your base stats are doubled.
Yes.
So like say Angel Halo. If you pick the Angel Halo as your syndrome, you get a +0 to body, a +3 to sense, a +1 to mind, and a +0 to social. If you're a pure breed, you double those stats. So you still have a 0 in body and social, but you have a 6 in sense and a 2 in mind.
Mm-hmm.
The second one down, which is what everyone else was a crossbreed, and that's where you pick 2.
Yeah.
And you can pick powers from each of those syndromes unless they have the pure mark next to them, and that's not a lot of powers, so it's a pretty good variety.
Yeah.
And what you do there is you pick 2 syndromes, and they both have the stat bonuses, and you just combine them. So it's kind of the simplest. And probably the easiest way to get like an even stat distribution. Then you have the tri-breed, who is like, the functions exactly like the crossbreed, except they get a sub-syndrome, which is a third syndrome they can pick powers for. It doesn't influence their stats.
Mm-hmm.
And they get fewer, like they can't even take things that require 100% encroachment as their restriction.
Yeah.
Like they can basically just pick like the base powers from that class, but it's a third syndrome they can draw from. And so those are the kind of the 3 ways you can determine your class, basically. And then after that, you get 3 points to distribute within these, body, sense, mind, social. And so, really, your stats are more important than your skills. Because the way you do skill checks in this game is, like say you wanted to make a perception check. That's something under the sense. You don't roll a number equal to your perception. What you do is you find how high your sense is, and you roll a number of d10s equal to your sense. So like say I have 4 sense. I would roll 4 d10s, and then if I have any ranks in the perception skill, I would add those ranks. So if I had 2 ranks in perception, it would be 4d10 plus 2 would be my perception roll. And then you would add those together, and then you would get the DC and see if you beat the DC.
Mm.
So your stats, much more than your skills, matter. This is a very stat-driven game. To the point that, honestly, I wouldn't even bother with skills. Like, they're good for flavor, they're a nice bonus, but it's such a small bonus.
Yeah.
And so that's how you determine your stats. Pretty quick and easy. The character sheet, I want to say, is actually very well done because it gives you the calculations to determine your secondary stats, like HP and initiative.
Which is something every character sheet needs for every game.
Yeah, so really you can, from there, once you get all of that figured out, you can basically put the book down and just do your calculations from there right off the character sheet, which is great. Especially
if, like us, you just have one book to share with everybody.
A book made of solid gold, apparently.
Yeah, Jesus.
We'll get to that in a second. But after that, you pick your powers, and everyone gets 3 powers right off the bat. You get concentration, which the way criticals work in this game is every time you roll a d10, if you roll a 10, it counts as a crit. But the reason I bring this up with concentration allows you to use any power, and for a little extra encroachment, anything that is like a 9 or a 10 or a 7 or a 10 counts as a crit.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's basically just throwing keen on your powers. And everyone gets that at the very beginning. Now, this is a little better for pure breeds because you have to pick a syndrome. So if you're a crossbreed, you can only do this with one of your syndromes. And if you're a tri-breed, you can only do it with one of the 3. If you're a pure breed, you don't have to worry about that because you only have one syndrome. The other one you get is Ward. This is the most abused fucking power in the game. It will be in yours. So the way Ward is worded is It's basically the screen transition from Final Fantasy is how it's supposed to work. Mm-hmm. Where basically every Overd, which is what the people with powers are called, has this thing where they can like snap their fingers and everyone who is not an Overd becomes what's called an extra in this scene. That means they can't be targeted, they can't interact, and they can't see anything that's going on. So the flavor text kind of drops the example that, you put everyone to sleep. And I made the mistake of using that example. It's like, yeah, so when you use Ward, everyone goes to...
I cannot think of a single time where I ever abused that power.
My God, all of you did that. All of you. But, yeah, so, like, what would happen is there was one time we got into a freeway chase. Someone was chasing Trevor in, like, a beat-up Ford Pinto, and he was...
It was Steven, apparently.
Oh, yeah, it was Steven. Steven was on, like, a motorbike. He was getting chased by someone. And, no, okay, sorry. Steven was on a motorcycle. He was chasing another guy on a motorcycle. And then I had the guy on the motorcycle use Ward. And so everyone on the freeway fell asleep. And so there was like a 45-car pileup. And then Steven does the same thing like a session later.
And a session after that, my rival, he was giving me some crap in his car because I was riding a bicycle. So as I was driving, I went Ward, and he just crashed into the other car, and I stole his shoes and his car and everything in his wallet. Mm-hmm.
So be careful about this one. Maybe don't use the example that everyone goes to sleep. Maybe just say it has gameplay implications, but no roleplay implications. It led to some really funny stuff, but at the same time, holy shit. It got stupid. The other one you get is called Resurrect. This one's interesting. So this is a power that goes off automatically. When you hit 0 HP, you are automatically revived. Mm-hmm. You roll d10s equal to HP until you're over 0. So essentially, someone knocks you down to like maybe negative 5 HP. You roll a d10. You roll a 6. You have 1 HP instantly. Here's the rub. And this is where it gets kind of interesting. That amount of HP is equal to your encroachment rate. Mm-hmm. So you rolled 6, you got 6 HP back, but your encroachment rate just went up 6 points.
So technically, you're immortal for a little while.
Mm-hmm. This power, also, when you hit 100% encroachment, Resurrect stops working. Mm-hmm. So that is kind of a way the DM can force you into that situation where you're maybe gonna lose control, because you just get batted around enough times. Now all of a sudden you're sitting at like a 97 encroachment rate, and you're just like, I need to use my powers, but I can't use my powers because darn it.
It's also a really good way to get a boss's final form idea, because you get this guy, he keeps healing, and now he's like finally at his last form, and because after you're over your encroachment, you're much more powerful.
Yeah, so the other thing is that the higher your encroachment rate is, you will get a bigger dice bonus to all of your rolls. Like, I think it starts at 80. So once your encroachment rate hits 80, you get a +1 dice bonus to every roll you do. Everything. And it goes up from there. Like, I think the highest we had it was Steven got it to 300%. And he was adding like 7 dice to all of his rolls.
That was great.
The problem is he was at 300% encroachment rate, and there was no way he was going to bring that down under 100. Like, he was done after that session.
We did everything we could, too. We rushed him to the hospital, everything. And he made some good lowest rolls. It was really sad. Yeah. But, hey, that's how it goes. But, yeah, so that's how that works. Yeah, so those are the 3 powers everyone gets, and Resurrect is, I think, maybe the most interesting among them. Watch Ward. Be careful about that one. Mm-hmm. But other than that, at character creation, you can pick 4 powers from all of your syndromes. Like I said, if you're a crossbreed, you can't pick pure powers, but, And these powers are kind of broken down like cards, like they are in 4th edition. Yeah.
So everything kind of has, we use one of my examples here. I will use Distorted Body. It's an exile skill. I have it at level 1. So everything has like a power level. And the more levels you put into this power by spending experience points, the stronger the power gets. So everything starts at level 1. Sometimes there will be a skill associated with it. Like say, sometimes this power adds a boost to Angel Halo skills. So you can only use it with an Angel Halo skill like a Blast of Light, but it adds power to that skill. It's got a target, like does it target you? Does it target everyone in the area? Does it target one person? Combat's really abstracted in this game, by the way. It has how much it adds to your encroachment, the timing, is it an automatic skill, is it a reaction skill, and is it like an attack skill? The range, like, again, who does it target? Someone in close is melee, someone far away is just whoever you can see. And then the difficulty is if it's got an opposed check to it. If it has an auto on the opposed check, it doesn't oppose anything. But sometimes it can oppose like someone's dodge if it's an attack.
Yeah.
And that's all that means. And they have a little handy little thing on the power sheet to where you can write the page number where the power can be found.
Also very useful.
Handy as fuck.
This is a fairly dense book.
Mm-hmm. But other than that, that's kind of a quick breakdown of how the powers work. Like I said, you can use them as many times as you want. Just they always add to your encroachment. So it really is kind of a risk versus reward system. And that's the biggest theme to this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on to combat. I think maybe this will be the last thing we touch on as kind of a breakdown of this game. Combat is fairly simple.
It always winds up being a big mess, though.
Okay, so here's how it works. You declare your attack. You'd be like, I'm going to attack Cody.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I make my accuracy check. So your accuracy goes off your melee or your range skill. So melee is under the body stat, range is under the sense stat. So those are your two attack stats. If you're making a ranged attack, you will roll your sense. If you're making a melee attack, you will roll your body. So your opponent has one of two options. Your opponent can either dodge, where he uses his dodge skill, which is under the body stat, so it can be body versus body or sense versus body, or your opponent can man the fuck up and guard. So if you make a dodge, it's an opposed roll. If the opponent decides to guard, you hit automatically, but you still roll your accuracy. Here's why. This was the big hookup and why this game slows down sometimes. Your damage roll is determined by your accuracy roll.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the formula. To calculate damage, roll 1 plus accuracy check's final score divided by 10 dice and add any modifiers.
Well, that's perfectly clear. It's not perfectly clear. That was sarcasm.
Yeah. So you're always going to do at least 1d10 points of damage.
Mm-hmm.
You then take your accuracy check. Let's say I rolled 54. Divide that by 10, 5.4, round it down, that's 5. So I would roll 60-10. That would be my damage if I hit.
Yeah.
Let's say I have a power that adds a 3 dice bonus. So it goes from 6 dice to 9 dice. That's how much damage I do. By the way, damage can stack up really fucking quick in this game.
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit. Like I said, I'm rolling 90-10 damage, and that can happen at level 1. I think someone managed like 15 dice at level 1 on average for damage. Like, it was pretty bad. So after you spend 5 minutes calculating your accuracy roll because you rolled 15 dice, you then spend another 15 minutes rolling all your damage dice and then calculating that, and that's how much damage you do. But it's not how much damage you do because your target has an armor stat.
Oh, boy.
If they decide to dodge and they fail, they subtract their armor. If they decide to guard, they add another stat called guard, which is like a second armor. And some syndromes are stupidly good at this. Mm-hmm. Like, they can reduce anywhere from like 50 to 200 points of damage by guarding, just sitting there and taking it. So the numbers, they can kind of get out of control.
Yeah.
But in a quick way, that is how combat works. One note, though, obviously Resurrection, we explained that. That power where you just keep getting up.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that's called an auto action, and you don't get a choice to use that. So Resurrect goes off whether you want it to or not. What was I going? Your powers, we've kind of alluded to this, can be chained together. So, like I said, your powers have a description called timing. And any power that has the same timing as another power can be used at the same time. You add their encroachment rate together, but you can use them at the same time. So let's say I have a beam of light and then something that I can shoot a beam of light and then use a power that adds damage to that beam of light.
Mm-hmm.
That's how that works, and that's called a combo. And you can combo as many powers as you want. As long as you're willing to pay the encroachment rate.
Where I did this spike jab and I added this blood attack to it, which broke armor and healed me. Mm-hmm. And you can do that. It does cost you a lot of encroachment, but and I came pretty close a few times.
Yeah.
But I never went over. I mean, I went over, but I stayed behind.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a kind of a quick and dirty rundown of the game. Like I said, we played a fairly long campaign with this, and for the most part, combat seemed to go pretty smoothly. It was bogged down, obviously, by the fact that we had to calculate damage sometimes, and an automatic dice roller isn't the best sometimes because you have to... Well... No, actually, an automatic dice roller would have been perfect for this game.
Yeah.
Why didn't we use that?
I don't know.
No.
I have an automatic dice roller.
I have one too. I have 3.
I downloaded it as soon as people started playing monks.
Yeah. So get an automatic dice roller for this game. That will help you substantially. But yeah, that's really the only thing that might slow this game down. The other time is it took about 2 or 3 sessions for us all to figure out how the combos worked. Because this game, it's a Japanese translation.
And the translation is the weakest part of the game.
Yeah, it's bad sometimes.
It was really hard to tell if it was just poorly explained or just a poor, if it was a poor mechanic. And the fact that it's not a poor mechanic, it's just kind of a complicated mechanic.
It's complicated and it's got the language barrier to deal with.
Yeah.
That being said, this version of Double Cross is actually the 4th version I found out. This series has been going since 2001, but only in Japan. So the version you English Yankees will be getting is actually the 4th edition. And honestly, I can see this being the 4th edition of something. Like we said, a lot of the mechanics, they're thought out, they're just not very well explained.
Yeah.
And that will be the biggest hitch to any campaign you run with this game. So my advice would be read this game over. If you're going to DM, read this game over, learn it as quickly as you can, as well as you can. Try to boil down the concepts in a way that's easy to explain to your players, and it'll help you a lot. Because once everyone gets the game down, it is a very kind of customizable role-play focused experience that was actually it was a lot of fun for all of its faults. Yeah. So this game, in spite and sometimes because of its faults, was a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's actually a really solid game. It's the best X-Men RPG that doesn't exist.
Yep. I'd say that, yeah.
Really cool.
So what do you think? Would this game, you think this would replace Pathfinder?
No. I'm really kind of hard pressed to think of any game that can.
But
World of Darkness, and that's kind of it.
Is this a game where you would, like, you're tired of Pathfinder, you want something new? Is this something?
Well, yeah, this is.
Obviously, we played a whole campaign with it, so.
I'd be happy to play another one. It's a really good system. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. So as far as sources go, this book has 3. There's an advanced player's guide that adds new powers. There's a source book about one of the rebel groups. And then there's a third one called Infinity Code that introduces a new syndrome called the Ouroboros that focuses on stealing other powers. I haven't read that one. I imagine it's broken as shit. So just so you know, there is support for this book. The core rule book, that's what we played with, and it was fine.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of balance, if you care about balance in games, this may not be the game for you.
These motherfuckers broke the game in 10 minutes.
I was the weakest character, I think, and I was broken as shit.
Yeah. Like, holy shit. If you have a bunch of people who are used to playing Pathfinder and used to having to work to break a game, sit them down, tell them the hard truth. This is a game about role-playing. This is not a game about combat. Holy fuck.
We managed to have some good role-playing.
Yeah. Like, like, level 1, you can break this game beyond repair.
Yeah, it really makes me think a lot about breakability. Like, with Pathfinder, they've had many, many decades of grognards trying to break the game, and so they have all these, like, little, like, almost like sluice gates to point game breakers in, like, certain directions to satisfy them where they don't break the game for everyone else. And in World of Darkness, it doesn't matter, like, how much of a tough badass you are, because you're fighting indestructible demons and shit.
Yep.
Or, like, impenetrable ghosts. This game, I think it trusts the human spirit a little bit too much.
So yeah, maybe know who your players are before you consider this game.
Yeah.
Like, I started making shit up to deal with them sometimes, and it worked out for the most part. But honestly, and if you stick to role playing as the focus, the game isn't that bad. Even if it has a bunch of people breaking the game in it. And hey, that just frees you up to go ham.
Yeah.
Hard as a motherfucker.
This is an anime game after all.
And you can push your players. So Cody, I don't go on the forums much. Does anyone talk about this game on the forums?
On all of RPGNet, I found one mention of it.
Whoa!
It's a Let's Play.
That's an infinite number more than the last two.
Yeah, we're kind of turning into a bit of an indie RPG podcast, aren't we?
Not by design. I thought people would know an Final Fantasy RPG exists and just be like, I play that shit all the time.
Yeah, I just sort of assume because I'm this way that, like, just saying Final Fantasy just draws a certain number of people like moths to a flame.
Yeah. And I'm just like, this is an anime RPG, and it's well thought out, and it's been around for a long time, and it's had like a whole bunch of Japanese only releases. Somebody has to have heard of this. No. Apparently not. But whatever.
Maybe I'm looking at the wrong spots, but
I don't know. Who knows?
RPGNet's, it's not there.
You'd assume on RPGNet. So yeah, that's that. Let's do created characters.
First,
Yeah.
I would like to take a moment to discuss how much this book fucking costs.
We can do that after personal builds.
Okay.
We'll save the best part for last.
Yeah. Play at home. Guess how much this book costs. Keep the number in your head.
Don't you go searching.
Yeah.
We'll know if you did.
We'll know.
Oh,
Okay.
we'll know. How about you go first?
Alright. I just brought the same character I played in the campaign. Bill Onikage. Esquire. Onikage, by the way, is Japanese for Demon Shadow. I know that because of this old PlayStation game called Tenchu, where you played a guy named where you fought a guy named Onikage. He is a lawyer. He is also evil. Like, not in the, like, blood-sucking lawyer check. No, he's an actual fucking storybook monster.
Yeah.
He's, like, slowly going completely insane. He's, like, got this lust for blood. He spends his free time, like, flying around the city rooftops, like, eating pigeons, and ignoring his hot secretary who is in love with him.
Yeah, he is a dick to all those Loises.
Yeah.
Even the ones he has a positive relationship with.
He doesn't have positive relationships. The first one is an enemy, and that emotion is schadenfreude. The second one is his boss, envy. And the third one is his secretary, paralegal Suzuki, and for her, he feels contempt.
Cody roleplayed the shit out of this, by the way.
I don't always play chaotic evils, but when I do, I enjoy it.
Yeah, there was one time, like, Cody was trying to do we were doing, getting set up for, like, a trial Cody was doing.
Yeah.
And, he was trying to get the evidence that, the mafia they were going after was running an illegal shish kebab racket. And, I told him that there was some evidence that the books were being cooked and, like, it was a laundering scheme.
Yeah.
But instead of, trying to get the evidence legally, he straight up mugged the guy who had him and then didn't kill the guy. He didn't go all the way. And then later on in the trial, he presents this evidence that he stole as evidence. And then the guy he mugged is a witness.
Yeah.
And that led to some funny
ski mask, though.
Some funny times.
So somehow it turned out all right.
The moral of that story is he basically used Suzuki as like a meat shield.
A legal meat shield?
Yeah. It was great. So, what about your powers, buddy?
Oh,
besides the powers of not having a conscience.
Aside from my power of psychopathy, I only did this once, but it's called blood reading, where I can just taste somebody's blood and know everything about them.
Oh yeah, the cantrips in this game are fucking badass.
Yeah. And I have hawk wings, which means I just get wings, and it makes me really, really hard to hit. Mm-hmm. And then I can turn my arms into blades. And I mix this up with the Thirst Lord ability, which makes me drain the blood from people and, like, ignore their armor. So I was, like, a really glidey beat stick. And
yeah, you and Steven in that armor ignoring.
I didn't do this very often, but I had a debuff called the Hell Beast Roar. It would lower people's defense die even more.
Nice.
And that's pretty much me. I kept it simple. I like combat-wise. I just flew around and hit things. Mm-hmm. The other guys were a bit flashier, particularly Trevor and Kais with their laser beams.
Yeah, so Trevor was like a black dog and a Hanuman. Black dogs are like these electric-powered technopaths. Mm-hmm. And Hanuman are speed demons.
Yeah.
They use speed! So by the end of it, Trevor had like a fucking Mega Man cannon. He could just summon out of nowhere and blast someone from like a football field away. And Kais, like I said, broke the game at level 1. And he had something where he could shoot like an Omega Death Beam at every enemy. And it would do like 15 dice worth of damage.
Yeah, whereas Steven was just really good with guns, I think.
Steven was really good with guns. He had a fire bullet that ignored armor.
Yeah.
He was basically like you.
Yeah.
So yeah. If you want to know how to break the game, Black Dog and Angel Halo. That's how.
Yeah.
Those two syndromes. But yeah. Guess we'll move on to my character. I made another one just to give myself a refresher on the character creation. And so my character, his name is Bob. And his origin is investor. He has rich parents. His experience was loss. He has lost something great. He has a memory gap as his encounter. So basically I would combine those two into his backstory as being he had a fateful encounter with someone, and his old friend, who was one of his Lois's, lies dead, but he doesn't remember what happened. And now he has these superpowers because his awakening is unknown. He doesn't know how he got his powers. And I rolled random on all of that, and that all of them linked together like that.
To make a really good story.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, you go down this list of your origin. I have rich parents. Experience. I lost something great, which was one of my Lois's, my old friend. And then I don't remember what happened, but all I know is I have these powers and my friend is dead. So this is something to bring up here. You can lose Loises. These characters can die, and there is a game reason for what happens. So what happens is my Loises are my rich father, and my emotion is approval. I want his approval, but I give him my approval constantly.
Yeah.
That is the positive emotion. My second one is this mystery man who makes me feel alone whenever he's around. I don't know who he is. Basically, this would be the guy from the encounter. He is maybe the person who gave me my powers and killed my friend. I don't know how that would work out, but it would probably...
In my head, I'm picturing the mysterious stranger from Fallout.
Yeah, probably. And then my third one is my old friend. I haven't named any of these guys yet because whatever.
Yeah.
So my old friend is dead. So what happens is I can't use him to lower my encroachment rate. So while everyone else gets 3d10 because they have 3 Loises, I get 2d10 because I have 1 Lois missing.
Mm-hmm.
And you can acquire more Loises as the game progresses. But it's usually like a big role play thing. So don't just hand them out if you're the DM. They have to work for it. But every time you lose a Lois, you get something called a Titus. And what a Titus is a hero point. Basically, you get a jail free card once per session. So in exchange for making yourself more vulnerable to turning into a mindless zombie, you get a hero point.
Seems legit.
Yeah, maybe not the best, but hey, you're the one who let your friend die, so. But yeah, so just kind of an overview of this game. Like, it's got a lot of great ideas, a lot of great role-playing ideas, but it is not without its problems.
Yeah, it's roughly written, and combat is a lot more obtuse than it needs to be.
Yeah, but to make up for that, it has some of the best role-playing tools I've ever seen. It goes out of its way to reward people who role play. Like other games, it's just like you can give them an experience bonus for role playing, but this game is just like, if you don't role play, motherfucker, you are gonna fall behind.
Yeah,
like it is. It goes out of the, and like if you do role play, if you do like commit to the story and start playing this character, the game does reward you. There are reasons to do all of this, and so I think if you're looking for a good role-playing game that will force your character, that will not force, but heavily encourage, these rooted characters with backstories and ideas and drives and ambitions and dreams. Like I've not seen a better one.
I'd be hard-pressed to think of a better one,
yeah. So yeah, take that for what it is. If you're interested in this book, know that it is available through DriveThruRPG. You can get the core rulebook in PDF format for $13. You can get the False Hearts, which is the source book campaign setting, for $15. You can get the Advanced Player's Guide for $18, and you can get the Infinity Code for $20, and those are all in PDF format. If you want the physical copy of the books, you can find them on Amazon. They are not available through DriveThruRPG. It's $25 for the False Heart, $28 for the APG, and $30 for the Infinity Code. That's for the physical copies. If you want the core rulebook in a physical form, you can go fuck yourself. Because there's 3 on Amazon, and the cheapest one is $400 goddamn dollars.
The most expensive one is over $500.
Yeah, the most expensive one is almost $600. You can go to the official... The guys who published this, who are they called? They're called Blue something Amusement. Not Entertainment Amusement. I don't know what that means. No, they say you can order the book there. You can't. They're sold out. They're perpetually sold out. If you want a physical copy of this book, it's not on eBay. It is on Amazon, and you are at the very least paying $400 for it.
Yeah.
That right there is what $400 sounds like, people.
It's...
All I can say is I'm glad I bought it when it was like $30.
I'll say Shit.
So if you're someone who doesn't like PDFs, yeah, sorry, man. You're gonna have to get the PDF.
Gonna be honest with you, like we said some really good things about this game. It is not worth $400.
No, God, no. It is not. But yeah. Hey, that's that's Double Cross. It is a true role-playing game.
Yeah. It's really good. It's not worth $400, but it's really good.
There you go. Shinsaku Yano /Fear. Guys who wrote this book. Put that on the back.
Yeah.
It's not worth $400. 20 level counters. Yeah. So what are you thinking next time, Cody?
Well, I don't know. What have we got in our closet?
What don't we have in our closet? Well, I've got an interesting little number that I bought off of Drive-Thru RPG because that's my addiction.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, we've got Yoris Essence. That was that one game where Trevor played the bear and I shouldn't have let him play the bear.
Yeah.
We've got...
We also have Blue Rose, where I played a horse.
Yeah.
An evil horse.
Yeah.
Also, it's a PDF, but I actually have a beta for a Conan the Barbarian RPG.
Oh.
I don't know anything about it. All I know is that I do have it.
Mm-hmm.
I also have the
hold on.
Encyclopedia. Go on.
We've still got that Dragon Age RPG, don't we?
Oh, shit, yes.
Okay. You want to do that?
Yeah.
All right. Doing the Dragon Age RPG next time.
Okay.
See you guys later.